Welcome to Design to the Nines. If this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Natalie Callahan, and today I've got some summer DIYs and dupes for you that kind of have a patriotic flair to them, but are very flexible in how you can put them together. It's going to be a lot of fun, so let's get started. So for our first DIY, we are going to be doing an outdoor game that I found on Grandin Road. It was really expensive, and I think that we can do it for a whole lot cheaper. So the first thing you're going to need is some dice. Now, I just got mine pre-made, ready to go at Hobby Lobby. This set was on sale for $9.99. The one on Grandin Road actually had red and blue polka dots. I like it black, so I'm not actually going to change those at all. Now, you can also find wood dice that you could customize yourself. These are huge dice. Love that. They're going to be so much fun outside. That was easy. So for our scorecard, we are going to use one of these 12 by 24 inch pieces of wood. Now, I bought like a 24 pack back when wood was a little bit cheaper, so these cost me $2 back then. I'm not quite sure what they're up to these days. I know wood has gotten pretty pricey. This is 12 by 24. We're going to actually cut off 4 inches of it, and I can do this on my sliding compound miter saw. Pretty easy, and it will give it a nice clean straight cut. And then we're going to take some black chalk paint and chalk paint out the entire front to kind of match the look of the one on Grandin Road. Then I found this SVG on Etsy, and I kind of sliced and diced it and kind of made it look a little bit more like the one on Grandin Road. I'll go ahead and link the SVG file from the Etsy shop where I got it at, and you don't have to adjust it as much as I did. I just did it to try to make it look a little bit more like our inspiration since we're trying to dupe it, but it would have been fine to just cut it as is. And that's what I do. I cut this out on my Cricut Maker, but you can also use the Air 2 as well. Then I weeded it, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually like weeding usually, but this was probably one of the most time-consuming weeding jobs I've ever done. And with the tiny littering, it made it kind of tricky too, but in the end it turned out really cool. Then we're gonna put on transfer tape and very carefully transfer our permanent vinyl onto our newly painted chalkboard. Then on our inspiration one, it had a cute little simple trim, and I picked this up at Hobby Lobby on sale for $1.50, and I needed 2 of them. Now, you don't need power tools for this next part because I'm going to pull out my handy dandy miter shears, and we're just going to miter this to fit all the way around. Now, I didn't get footage of this part, but I sprayed this in a Watco clear coat to finish it off prior to cutting it, and then we're just going to use some Gorilla hot glue to glue it into place, and because it's very lightweight, it will be just fine. And we're looking pretty good so far. Now it's time to make that adorable flag drawstring bag. Now, if you don't sew, I don't personally recommend using hot glue. I know a lot of DIYers use the hot glue method. I just personally don't think that that is a very solid way to put something together. But you can use some hem tape. I've used it before where you kind of iron it into place. That's what I would recommend if you want something that's gonna hold up over time and not easily come apart. It's just my personal opinion. I personally am a huge advocate for sewing. I just think it's the right way to do it, and it gives it a more professional, nice look. And sewing is not that hard, I promise. And stitching a little bag like this is a fantastic beginner project, honestly. I have taught young girls for ages 12 to 18 to sew before, and this is the project that I usually have them do, as a little drawstring bag. It's super easy. So we're gonna assemble that now. So I picked up this fabric at Hobby Lobby. It's super cute, and I think I paid just about $4 a yard for it. but I got a half a yard of each, and I had a ton of leftover even after making all that we do for this episode. You can see as I'm working here that I'm actually watching one of my favorite YouTube friends' latest episodes, Yami, the Latina next door. She is really good at dupes and knockoffs, and if you like that kind of thing, you'll definitely want to check her out. I measure how big I thought it should be, and I actually end up making this a little larger than it really needed to be, but it's still going to work. I believe I cut it to 8 inches by 14 inches, and I used pinking shears so I didn't need to finish the edges later, and that prevents fraying. Then I just ironed everything out. Now I normally would sew around all 3 sides, but because the inspiration one looks like a flag, I sew down 2 of the sides, and then I take it back to the ironing board and kind of open up those seams and match them up and iron them down so that it will look more like the Grandin Road version. Then I sew across the bottom. Then we're going to make a little pocket for our rope drawstring that we are going to use and sew around that. Then I just take out my seam ripper and I rip open one of the seams, and then I feed our Dollar Tree rope through that, and then I tie that off in a knot. Then one final detail for the eraser, which I picked up at Michael's, I just hot glued a piece of scrap wood on the top of it to kind of give it that same wood look as our inspiration one. Now, I could have gone all out and wrapped the entire eraser in wood, but I just thought this was just enough to do the trick. Now, I know I did this in kind of a patriotic theme, and I know that my audience is all over the world. And so you can take this idea, use your country colors, or just use your own favorite colors. I'm just kind of trying to match the Grandin Road version and dupe it as close as possible. There's a ton of flexibility in this, and so you can kind of just let your creative juices start flowing and pick anything that would work for your taste. Now remember the $80 version of this through Grandin Road. It's very cute. Well, we did ours for 1/4 of the price at $20. Now, if you were making a whole bunch of these and you were able to get a little bit better deals on maybe the dice and maybe the eraser and a few other things, you could probably do this for even less. And I think this would be a really cute gift idea. So maybe keep that in mind. But I just love how this turned out. I think it's a really good match. I'm a little partial to mine, but what do you think? If you stick with me to the very end, I've got a special tribute DIY that I am really excited to share with you. It's worth the wait, so stick with me a little longer. So on Grandin Road, I also found a cute little tic-tac-toe outdoor game that I thought was really adorable, and I thought that we could also make at a tiny fraction of the cost. And what you're gonna need for this is some heavyweight chipboard. And we're gonna cut it out on the Cricut Maker because it can cut through wood and it can cut through this chipboard and give us a nice clean cut. And we're gonna cut out the X's and the O's. In order to cut on chipboard, you will need to do this on a Cricut Maker machine only. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to change out your blade and put in a deep knife blade. Just open it up, pull the other one out, and put the new one in, and it's quite easy to switch out actually. Then because the material we're working with is so thick, we need to move over the feeding wheels to the right hand side because the Cricut brand chipboard is 11 inches by 11 inches. And you'll notice that I'm using some painter's tape to kind of help secure that down to the mat. Now what I'm cutting here are some X's and O's that are 5 inches tall and in the regular default Cricut font. Now the cuts on this chipboard is going to take something like 24 passes through the machine, but just keep an eye on it. It may not take that many, and you can just push the pause button to see how it's coming along, and if you feel like it's done, then you can just hit the arrow button and cancel the cut. And when they're cut, they look like that. perfect, right? And then to mimic that stars and stripes look, we are gonna take some scrapbook paper and cut them out. Now on the Grandin Road version, the stars were in a red and white and the stripes were in a blue and white. Well, I just wanted to stick with the traditional stars and stripe colors. So I cut the X's out in that and the O's out in this. Isn't it so cute? And because you're using the same cut file, they should match right up like so. And we can just glue them onto the front using a glue stick. But what we are gonna do to make this more waterproof, because this is paper, is we are going to put a clear coat polyurethane, and this is a non-yellowing one. I like to use the Watco, and we are gonna just give that a nice good coat. Then we are gonna need some rope or cording for our kind of grid for the tic-tac-toe game. I didn't have white cording, or I did, it's just not very thick. And besides, I really like, especially since we're kind of leaving some of the chipboard unfinished, to go with this Dollar Tree rope here. Now, I wanna show you. I don't know if they're still selling both or if this is just the new one. This is some old Dollar Tree rope, and this is the new one. And this is much, much thinner. I'm gonna use the thicker one to do our grid, and you're gonna cut 4 24-inch sections out of this. Now, if we do nothing to the ends of this rope, it will fray into oblivion. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do a lashing technique that I've shown on this channel before. I like this better than glue just because I feel like it has a more finished quality to it and it's a little bit more stable. And all you do is take some twine and make a loop, and then you kind of line that up near the end of the rope, and then you're going to wrap your twine around itself for about 10 times. Then you cut off the end, and then you're going to lace that end piece through the hole, and then you kind of pull from both ends, and that kind of pulls it underneath our lashing and hides the knot underneath. And then you cut off the excess. I hope you can see what I'm doing here and clearly, and it makes sense. And we're gonna do that on the ends of all 4 pieces. And then we're gonna make another one of those little pouches like we did for the Yardzee using that same fabric. So just repeat the steps that I did on the other bag, but this time we are going to make it a little bit smaller. About 8.5 by 11 inches is what you should cut out the pieces to. I wanted to show you a different way that you could do the cording as well. So just basically threading the rope through and then leaving the ends loose this time so that you can just tie a knot to close it. And don't forget to lash the ends of this rope as well. Now here's a look back at our $70 tic-tac-toe inspiration, and we made our dupe for only $9. Another great gift idea that you can customize with any paper or any fabric that you choose. I've got a sweet tribute gift that I will be doing for my husband in just a second, so stick with me a little bit longer. So if you've been watching my channel, you know that I've been trying to work down my scrapwood pile and come up with some fun, cute decor using up those bits and pieces, because I am getting ready to do an outdoor kind of patio makeover, and so we need to kind of thin down the scraps so that they are a little bit more manageable. And so for my next DIY, we are going to be making some stars and stripes tags, and for that you're going to need to meet me outside. Okay, so we're going to use 2 more pieces of my scrapwood. I love that. And you can see that they're the same width, but this one's shorter, so we're going to make these match up. We'll cut this one down, and then we'll make tags on either corner. Once we cut off the corners, just drill a hole up top and give it a good sanding. Then I coat both tags with 2 coats of white chalk paint. Then I create the stripes using painter's tape. And I cut out some stars on my Cricut machine, and I weeded it and applied transfer tape and put that on the other tag. Then to prevent bleeding, we coat everything with the original white chalk paint to seal the edges, and then we let that dry. Then I take some navy blue acrylic paint and paint the stars tag, and some red chalk paint and paint the stripes. I easily peel off the stripes, and then I start to remove the stars, but realize it's going to be a little bit trickier than I thought. So I decide to wait a little bit longer, and then while we wait, we flip it over and add some antiquing glaze on the backs of the tags, and then I go around the edges of the front as well. And then I take a razor blade and go around those edges of the stars and remove those, and then distress both tags with a sanding sponge. Then we just tie on some rope and knot it into place. Because I used Scrapwood, I have less than $1 of supplies into these tags, and they are so cute, so patriotic, and I just adore them. Now for this segment, I have waited for my husband to leave, so he doesn't know I'm doing this, and I'm hoping he's okay with it, because this is a very special flag, and it belonged on the casket of my husband's father. He passed away unexpectedly last summer. Now, they had a complicated relationship, but one thing that my husband was always very proud of was the fact that his dad was a Marine and served in Vietnam. So with Memorial Day, Father's Day, his father's birthday, and the anniversary of his death all coming up very shortly, I thought it would be really great to do a tribute gift for my husband. So for my next DIY, we are going to be customizing this glass case. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby. And Hobby Lobby, shame on you for taking away the 40% off coupon. Not happy about that. I'm not gonna lie. I love my Hobby Lobby, but I love that coupon. So I did pay full price for this, but in this case, we needed it. So what we're gonna be doing is I am going to etch the glass on the front side. So I got the dimensions of the display glass case, which was 21.5 inches wide by 10.75 inch tall. I also found the Marine Seal SVG and put that up top, and his father's information on the bottom line in Times New Roman font. Since we are putting this on the back of the glass, we need to reverse the image. Now, I used this stencil material that I had on hand. This is not a Cricut vinyl, and I would not recommend it because it ended up being kind of a pain to work with. So after weeding it and putting on transfer tape, I put it onto the glass. Then I put a thick coat of Armor Etch cream over our stencil and let that sit for 15 minutes. Then I scrape off all of the excess Armor Etch cream and put it back into the bottle. Then we're just going to want to use some soapy water to remove all of the excess from the glass. Now, my husband really loved and was touched by this gift, and I wanted to share it with all of you in case you have one of these very special flags too. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, here's another one that I think you'll like as well. And if you haven't already done so, consider hitting that subscribe button right there. It's super easy to do, and I would love it if you joined the DIY Niner family. And to all of my DIY Niners, I just want to remind you that you are more powerful than you know. We'll see you next time. Bye.